When did you first decide to become a wildlife biologist, and what made you study wildlife?
I decided to become a wildlife biologist when I was about 16 or 17, when I attended a conservation camp in New York State. It was sponsored by what was then the New York State Conservation Department, and I was sent to that camp from the Boy Scouts, actually, that I was a member of. And that camp, besides teaching many things like fly tying and skeet shooting, trap shooting, and fur trapping, and various conservation activities, they also had counselors who were students at Cornell University, just taking their summers off as counselors in this camp. And these students were wildlife students. And that was the first time that I ever realized that it was possible to go to college and become a wildlife biologist.
Yeah.
So that would have been, that was probably 1951 or 52.
Wow.
And I realized then that's what I wanted.
What advice would you give to young students who are considering becoming wildlife biologists?
Well, if you really want a wonderful life and enjoy working in the outdoors a lot, but also enjoy working at the computer and writing, because that's a big part of it, then this is a really good career for you. But it has to be a combination of all that. Too many people, I think, see television shows and think that a wildlife biologist spends his whole life in the field, but not many wildlife biologists do. If you're going to really contribute a lot to society, you have to tell the world, whether it's the scientific world or the public, about what you're learning.
What is a typical day like as a senior scientist for the U.S. Geological Survey?
A typical day?
Typical day.
I don't think there is a typical day. Let's just say, let's break that down into two categories.
Okay.
A typical day in the field and a typical day in the office. And most days are in the office. Certainly, the average biologist probably spends at least 1/3 to 1/2 of his time in the office. The office time is involved in administrative work, in writing proposals for funding, in managing a budget, and more fun in managing data, analyzing data, and writing articles for publication. The average day in the field could be any number of things from, in my career, using a helicopter to live capture calf elk, calf caribou, that kind of thing, to put radio collars on them, or just sitting out in the wild and watching things, or cruising around in an airplane, looking down and watching, in my case, a pack of wolves traveling along or chasing a deer or something like that. It's pretty varied, but it is at least outdoors all the time.
Yeah, neither of those sound too bad, I
Right.
have to say. And tonight, your talk is about current tracking technology. What do you enjoy most about tracking wolves using satellite collars?
Well, what I've been enjoying in the past 9 months or so is following a wolf that I've known since 2003 up on an island by the North Pole. It's about 600 miles south of the pole. And I'd studied that wolf for quite a long time, and other members of his pack in that population for some 20-some years, 20-some summers, without ever knowing what they did in the winter. And of course, in that area, winter brings 24 hours of darkness, and I had no idea what those wolves did at that time of year. So in 2009, we put a GPS Argos collar on this wolf, and he happened to be the leader of a pack of at least 20 wolves. And so every 4 days, the satellite sends me GPS locations from that wolf, and I get 2 of those GPS locations a day. So what I enjoy about that is just seeing where that wolf is going at a time when I'm not there. I'm usually only following him during the summer for like 3 weeks or so of the summer, and so I have a rather limited view of what it's been doing. But once I put that collar on, I found out its territory is at least 5,000 square miles in extent, over the winter and the year, and that he sometimes goes as far as 170 miles from the territory. So it's been very satisfying to see all those data come in.
So did you get to watch that? Were you out there, or were you back at the office?
Well, I was in the
Data?
office, yeah,
Okay.
sitting at the computer, but I just love going in every 4 days and downloading his data.
That's very cool. And I read that you started trapping bears by hand in order to track them.
We trapped them in 2 ways. We had culvert traps, which is like a big box trap, and then we had steel foot traps, so we trapped them with. But then in order to collar them, we had to, if it was in a foot trap, we didn't have the kind of drugs that you have now with a dart gun,
Yeah.
Or a jab stick or something like that. The only drugs we could use to anesthetize the bear was had to be delivered intraperitoneally. That means right in here. And to do that, you got to get the bear to hold still. To do that, we had to put actually it was a long pipe with a chain on the end, sort of a choker basically, and we put that around the bear's neck and tighten it up and hold the bear. One person would hold the bear like that, and the other one would go around, grab a hind leg and put a loop of rope around it.
Wow.
And then he'd tie that out to a tree and then go tie up the other hind leg. And then the trick was always getting that front leg, because the first front leg was usually caught in the steel trap. So that was kind of cinched down, but then, the bear still had that motion it could do with the other front leg. But we managed to lasso that or hook it up some way and then tie that bear out all spread eagled. And then once he was harmless like that, we could just go up and inject him in the gut.
Sounds exciting.
Well, it was for a 16, 18-year-old person.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That early.
That was undergraduate work.
Well, what new technology do you foresee for animal tracking?
What new
years to
track?
come?
Well, the newest is the GPS Argo stuff. That's just really wonderful, and it's getting better all the time in that the equipment is getting more efficient so that the battery's life is longer, or it's getting smaller in terms of, because it's more efficient, you can use smaller batteries, therefore you can use it on smaller animals. People are tracking even Canadian lynx right now with that kind of technology. So I think that's the most advanced we have right now.
Yeah. What inspired you to create the International Wolf Center, and what's its mission?
Well, the International Wolf Center was actually evolved because of the controversial nature of the wolf. People either loved them or hated them, and they always wanted, when I was doing research on them, various groups, individuals would ask, could we come out and track wolves with you? Could we come out and see a wolf kill? And could we go out and listen to wolves howl? And I tried to accommodate them on my research project, but it just got overwhelming. And I could see that there was a need for an entire organization that could cater to those kind of needs, right along with the need to promote objective science-based information about wolves, because the wolf being so controversial, there were people on both sides of the question who were always stretching the truth or actually telling lies about the creature in order to sort of promote their position or their belief about the animal. So there was a strong need for science-based information, and that's what gave me the idea that we really needed to build a wolf center that would actually fill that need. So we did, and just to give you an idea, my project, my research project at the time, there were just 3 of us on that project, and a budget of $50,000 or something like that. That was back in the 70s, and in the early 80s when we started the Wolf Project, the International Wolf Center. Eventually, the center has a budget of $1.5 million and staff of 20 people. So in this case, it's the tail's wagging the dog, actually, or the tail's wagging the wolf, I guess you can say. Our PR part of the project blossomed into something far larger than our research project.
You actually have ambassador wolves there too.
Yes, we have captive wolves there, and we call them ambassador wolves. Just wolves so that people can come and just watch them.
Do you believe wolf restoration in the U.S. is successful, and what do you believe is its biggest hurdle?
Well, the wolves have recovered. Biologically they've recovered. According to, the criteria set by the various recovery teams that the Fish and Wildlife Service set up, the recovery level in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan was only 1,250 wolves in Minnesota and 100 Wisconsin and Michigan combined. And right now there's over 600 in Wisconsin and Michigan. Actually, over 1,200 in Wisconsin and Michigan combined, and 3,000 in Minnesota. So, we've certainly reached the biological criteria there. And in the West, it was only 300 wolves, and we're up to anywhere. The official number right now is 1,650, but I believe that's a minimum number, and I'd say there's close to 2,000 wolves out in the West right now. So I think they're fully recovered in those areas.
What do you think the general public could do to help wolves?
Well, I hope that the general public will try to regard wolves like every other creature, rather than giving them some sort of a very special position in their lives or in the wild. The wolf is like a cougar, a bear, any other species. It was endangered, sure, and at that time we regarded it as sort of a poster child for endangered species, but it's recovered now and should be managed like any other creature. So if the public can accept that, that would be the biggest thing I hope the public can do.
So you've been a member of the Wildlife Society for many years. What do you enjoy most about membership at TWS?
Well, the Wildlife Society is a strong professional society that I think every wildlife biologist should be a member of. And I joined, I think in 1958 or so, and soon became a life member at that time. And of course, the journal that it publishes is probably the thing I use the most in terms of both reading and in publishing. And of course now the website and all. But also, the camaraderie amongst Wildlife Society members, and the various awards that they give, the symposia or annual conferences that they hold and that kind of thing, they all help promote professional wildlife biology.
And speaking of the annual conference, have you been to some in the past?
Yes, I was. The latest one I think was the one in Alaska.
Oh, wow.
It was. I gave a couple papers there. Yeah.
Oh. What was your favorite part of the annual conference?
My favorite part of that conference, actually, it was getting together with a whole bunch of colleagues that I hadn't seen for quite a long time. But I don't mean to make that as I'm not facetious about that. That's one of the most important things, is to just the informal meetings you have with colleagues and discuss your projects informally and all that, and I found that very valuable.
Yeah, especially for students. Now there's student professional mixers, and
Yes.
it just gives them a chance to meet, people who could be their mentors.
Exactly.
Yeah. And also, lastly, really, the Wildlife Society is going to launch an online long-term mentoring program, and we were wondering if you might be interested in being a mentor in that program.
And signing up as a mentor?
Mm-hmm.
Possibility. The trouble is that I travel a lot.
Yeah.
Like this trip, but then in a month, toward the end of April, I've got to be in Europe for a week in a couple of different countries, and then it won't be long after that I go to Ellesmere up by the North Pole.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
Yeah.
not that easy to just commit to mentoring.
Yeah, it is going to be online, but if you're up in the North Pole,
I mean,
I'm not sure.
I would look into it. And
Yeah.
It's a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's a good idea, actually.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, especially if it can be online,
Mhm.
because that makes it at least a lot more flexible than if you had to meet with someone a certain time each week. and all
Yeah,
that.
and it makes, students and other professionals be able to have mentors across the country.
Right.
And,
right.
have people that go to Europe and North Pole for their
Mhm.
work. All right, that's all I have for you. Thank you for taking the time again, and I'm looking forward to the lecture.
Okay, you're welcome.